breathed out by you. Your spirit wrote through men like a pen in the hand of a God who knew that we...
Here we are back for another installment from the New City Catechism. Today we're covering question 8. And the question is this: what is the law of God stated in the Ten Commandments? The answer actually includes all of the Ten Commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. You shall not covet. Now, you've already figured out what I have here, right? On a hot day, and this is a hot day when I'm recording this, on a hot day, you might think that there's just nothing better than putting one of these out in the yard and filling it with cool water, maybe even some toys, or you could even sit in the water and read a book if you're careful. If this is all you ever knew, you might think this is the greatest. But can you imagine having all of this beauty that's been made, and it's all yours? You can have it. Who would be content to go back to this? Isn't it true that sometimes the best things we can come up with are just really cheap substitutes for the real thing? That's what God wanted to teach about himself in the Ten Commandments. And so the very first of the Ten Commandments, you shall have no other gods before me, this is the introduction to the Ten Commandments. Before he said that, he said this: I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Do you know that that's the foundation for all the other commandments? Let me explain. The second commandment: you shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. You see, because God is who he is, because he's the Lord who delivered his people, we don't want any other gods before him, and that's why you don't need to create one of your own. How about the third commandment? You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Because God is who he is, he deserves to have his name respected like no other. How about number 4? Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. That was the day that God ceased his creation, and he called that a pattern for us. We can find our rest in him. Because God is who he is, you can be sure he will provide for you when you set aside your work on one day a week to worship him. Number 5, honor your father and your mother. Because God is who he is, you would do well to find your best joy in the home, right where he placed you. The 6th commandment: you shall not murder. Because God is who he is, you should never attack those he made in his own image. Number 7, you should not commit adultery. Because God is who he is, you need to be thankful and satisfied with your own spouse because he gave that person to you. The 8th commandment is you shall not steal. Because God is who he is, you do not need what belongs to others. You don't need to take anything from them because he's given you what you need. Commandment number 9, you shall not give false testimony. We might say do not lie, but it even goes beyond that. Because God is who he is, you don't need to cover up the truth. You don't need to hide from the truth. God knows it already. And then the 10th commandment, you shall not covet. That means to want something that isn't yours, to think that that's your right to take that or to have it for yourself. Because God is who he is, listen, you already have all you need from him. So when we ask that question, what is the law of God stated in the Ten Commandments? We look at the Ten Commandments and maybe we can remember this. Why would we want any cheap substitutes when we can have God and all that God gave us? There's no better place to be.